my wife saw insurance things on the news, and I told her, I was like, it's like Voldemort. We don't say the name.
It's terrible.
I don't rock the boat.
Yeah,
We don't talk about Bruno.
No,
yeah, we don't
seriously.
talk about Bruno.
Like
Welcome to episode 8 of the Florida Real Estate Life podcast. We have with us today Lyndsay King of Insurance Professionals of Brevard, and two of my colleagues from Denovo Realty, Joel Ludlow and Elliott Grozan. One quick note, I've switched brokerages. I'm with Denovo Realty now.
Welcome, Peter.
Thank you.
Yay.
welcome.
So it's 2023. There's a lot of problems with insuring homes. We're running into it as realtors. So we figured let's talk to the expert. What do you see as one of the biggest problems right now in 2023 when it comes to getting insurance for a home?
Insurance is really tough right now. A lot of the companies are changing their guidelines. So they've just tightened up a lot. They used to accept older homes. Now a lot of our companies are only accepting homes 10 years old and newer. They're tightening up their roof guidelines. You used to even be able to get a contract on a roof and say, okay, we'll get it at closing. We'll put it on after the fact. They would make exceptions. They're not making any of those exceptions. And that's just because the market is saturated. We've had so many people pull out of Florida that it's saturating the other companies. So they're having to tighten their guidelines because they just can't write as many policies because they just are loaded with them already.
Sure. So I saw recently that Farmers pulled out, and now basically everybody's using Citizens. Is there any private companies left?
Yeah, there's a lot of private companies left. They're just hard to write with.
Okay.
We have maybe 30 that we used to write with and that we're appointed with, and I'd say right now we're writing with 10-ish.
Wow.
So some of those companies have pulled out of Florida. Some are not writing new business. But like I said, the ones that are writing, those guidelines are just really tough. So that's why a lot are moving towards Citizens. So not only price point, but just because they don't qualify for the guidelines of other companies.
Right. So I know Joel and Elliott do a lot of business beachside. Elliott, what are some problems you may have seen trying to get a deal done?
I just closed, luckily, on a townhome up in Cape Canaveral. I was telling you, Lindsay, the roof was 9 years old, torched down. I guess they could do it with peel and stick now, the new roofs. But the inspector and a separate roof company came out and gave it 5-year life expectancy, and they still had to replace it. But you said usually that's not the case. If they have a stamp of approval of 5 years plus, should be good to go.
Yeah, so Citizens is where people go when everyone else won't take them or everyone else's premium is super high. It's the government program, basically. And with the roofs, if you get a wind mitigation report, there's a section on there with the roof, and it's useful remaining years. And if that says 5 years of life left remaining, Citizens should, and in their guidelines says that they will accept that policy. Now the next year they will non-renew because now you're under the 5 years. So you're basically only getting 1 year of insurance then, but you're buying yourself a year.
Could this be something that falls back on the lender, that they may not want to?
Not necessarily on
complete
the
the
lender.
loan, or no?
No, I haven't seen that. As long
Okay.
as they're getting the insurance at
Yep.
closing, then I've seen
Everybody
that the
wants
lenders
to
are
see
fine.
it through. Yeah.
That situation, it seems like maybe the agent had the incorrect information. Now, granted, I don't know anything about what it could have been a flat roof, and flat roofs have different years, but ultimately, if you said there's 5 years left of life, that should have been fine. So I think that might have been maybe an agent error, and that's super important too. A lot of these agents, all of the agents have different companies they write with.
Yeah.
All of the companies have different guidelines. So some agents may have companies that all have tighter guidelines, whereas another agent might have other companies that might have accepted it with an older roof.
Sure.
So it's important to know whether they're just kind of giving you a blanket statement of, okay, well, most of our companies say 10 years, so we're just going to say that, or if they're giving you the actual guidelines of all the companies across the board.
And what are you seeing for the different types of roofs? Tile, asphalt shingle, metal. What are these insurers given for life expectancy now? Because that's changed, correct?
Yes. Well, yes, it's changed. Each company, I mean, there's one company, I can't think of which one it is, and I don't think that I'd name them regardless, but
Yeah.
there's a company out there that it's either 5 or 8 years left of life on a shingle roof, which is insane. That's basically a brand new roof. A lot of them say 10, most of them are 15 for shingle.
Okay.
But again, it's got to have most of the time it's got to have the 5 years left of life, because if you're at 15, then next year it's going to non-renew. Tile is a little bit longer. Tile and metal are usually 30 years, but some companies just do a blanket statement. We're going to take roofs that are 15 years old, period.
So if a homeowner's shopping, they're going to put on a new metal roof, and they're between a 30-year metal and a 50-year metal, just go with the 30 because they're going to have to replace it anyway.
We actually have that question quite a bit. You know, there's a difference between the roofing companies. This is a lifetime shingle or a lifetime tile roof, or this is a 50-year tile roof. That's talking about what their work, their scope of work. So they've put the roof on and they can insure that roof for 50 years if there's damage to it or whatever. But that has no bearing on the insurance guidelines. So even if it says 50-year tile or metal, 30 years is, from an insurance standpoint, how long that's going to last.
Good. And then another question, Joel and I were talking about this earlier, is I guess a lot of notices just went out to citizens, customers. And if a private insurer can insure the property and they're not more than 20%, they have to go with the private insurer now?
Yes. So that's actually always been a rule to write with citizens. You can only write with citizens if the private policy is coming in 20% higher than the citizen's premium.
Okay.
They have really tightened that up now, really tightened it up. We have to submit 2 and sometimes 3 documents to show a comparative rater on our system that there's no other companies. We have to show, if